Hello and welcome to the meeting room out of office here at the Meeting Show 2025. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Anne-Marie Trzebinski, founder and CEO of AMTEvents. Anna, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you, Holly.
So we are in our second year, the evolution of this conference fashion piece. We kind of started last year. The brainchild came from you as a former stylist in what you used to do for work, and obviously, adapting that now into what you do with AMTEvents. And we wanted to basically walk the show floor and just see how people were dressed, how they're styling themselves, how they dress to make themselves feel confident, but also the element of comfortability, which we probably didn't have maybe, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, or at least before the pandemic. So like I say, we're in our second year of doing that now. What have you seen on the show floor this year at the meeting show? What are people wearing?
Yeah, so obviously your interest was certainly in leisure wear and taking on that kind of theme. I've been looking around today, looking at the more, let's say, comfortable event professionals. And there's definitely a running theme of trainers. More of the clean style of smart trainers, so not necessarily running trainers. Even myself, I think when you're now going into an event exhibition or you're going to a social event, it's more acceptable to wear trainers. And it's more durable for long days, which we're all used to, especially when you're coming to huge venues like the Excel today, where you're doing a lot of steps and you're doing a lot of pacing and back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. So you say when we talk about trainers, like you say, we are talking about like the smart ones, that you wouldn't necessarily use for a country walk if you're going out for a jog or something
I
like
wouldn't
that.
recommend going to Tough Mudder the day before and then wearing them in, put it that way. But I think that's pretty much, similar opinion to everybody. It's more about finding a maybe even a shoe that actually has a colorway, that a streak or something that is naturally running through your outfit. And, it's very much trainer pairing, smart shoe, comfortable, flat shoe wearing, rather than the traditional heel that I think a lot of women in particular, obviously, we used to. Platforms, I think, are quite a good running trend as well for shoes, because it gives you additional height, but you've still got your feet quite flat. So
Did you say platforms or platform?
platforms?
Platforms, because also there are, of course, flatforms as well.
Yes. So
what I've got on today, which is like a trainer with a little bit of added height for confidence in there.
Platforms, wedges, and flatforms. Yeah. All very, popular when it comes to exhibitions and just feeling more comfortable.
So is it the guys and the gals as well that are wearing trainers? Have you seen a trend, like who's wearing them more or?
So I actually had a lovely conversation with an individual earlier, and he was wearing trainers, but he was still dressed pretty smart. And he just, he dressed for his client. And this theme came through, I think, last year when we were talking with people as well. It's all about the environment that you're in. So, his client happened to be Puma. So he's comfortable to dress down, more sportswear. Whereas if he's going into a corporate meeting, he will still dress up. And that he just said, there's a time and a place for a suit.
Absolutely.
Time and a place for a heel. Just depends what that environment is.
Yeah, situational. But it's interesting, isn't it, how the trade show floor now really isn't maybe that place for a heel anymore. Of course, people still do wear them and look amazing. But looking around the room here in the podcast studio, loads of people have got trainers on, whether they are those smart trainers that you would never dream of going for a jog in, or those trainers that, you would put on and go for a walk down, I don't know, the seafront or through the country.
Yeah,
so
no,
it really
definitely.
is interesting to see that evolution. So sticking on sort of trainers, and we've got that athleisure wear.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to anybody who's got their fitness watch on or a step tracker or something like that? Because I know when we come to a trade show, most of us are thinking, how many steps am I going to do? And it's almost like a badge of honor, isn't it? Because maybe day to day we're doing, let's say 5,000 to 10,000. At a trade show, you could be doing anywhere up with 50 to 20,000 steps. So are you seeing that as a trend? Are people more encouraged to like put their fitness trackers on and see what they can achieve?
I think so. And I've actually met a few individuals that are really not annoyed today as well, because they have forgotten that to put on their watch. And obviously it's the best time to get the steps in. But equally, I've met people with 2 fitness watches on. I've met people that wear the watches, but not for the steps. So there seems to be a running theme that is quite equal to, firstly, being knowing and understanding your body whilst you're in events, what hours you're doing, how you're stressed. But though that data, I think, it's good to know it, but people aren't really using that data to then affect how they're actually working. So it's interesting to see why people wear it if they're not using that information and that data to then recognize how they might better their well-being. But the other element is that they are more connected to the business world without having to have their phone in their hand. So, seeing an email come in, but judging in that moment when you see that preview, is that priority? Do I need to deal with that now, or can I just leave that till later? And I think it's that, it's a nice to see that actually people are moving away from having their phones in their hand all the time, walking the floor, kind of looking down at their screen because, they've got that ongoing conversation or that email that they're waiting for. So, yeah, it's nice to see, okay, yes, the watches are being used for fitness, data not necessarily being used, but there were some people that were looking at their steps and will kind of get it up to the level they want. But then also from a business productivity and also trying to be more connected with your environment around you.
God, that's such an interesting point. So obviously we talk about conference fashion and conference styling from an element of like, well, I'd say being comfortable, looking smart, wearing business attire, all the way through to wearing trainers and bringing that kind of home style into work. But yeah, also having the smart tech and how that's evolving what we wear and how we interact with business. Great point. Thank you very much. Yeah. So moving on just slightly, I know AMT is having a very exciting year this year because you're turning 5.
Yes, yeah.
It's 5 years of AMT events. Anna Marie, what's been your highlight?
Oh, highlight. What a question. Had I prepared this before? I might look a bit deeper. But I would probably say we did the Global Triathlon Awards in France at the Hyatt Palais. And it was a wonderful event with a lot of different logistics managed